Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name's Steve and this is a 5-minute review of Love and Monsters from 2020. This film is on Netflix and the trailer for it is also the first sort of 3 minutes of the film, so it's not a spoiler to talk about it at all. And in this animated sketch, we see the story of what has happened to the Earth. A huge asteroid was going to come towards the Earth and destroy it, so to save the planet, all various countries fired these huge missiles. It went up into the atmosphere, it destroyed asteroid and saved the Earth. However, all of the chemicals from all of those rockets got into the atmosphere, came back down to Earth, and things started to go wrong. All of the insects started mutating and getting bigger and bigger and bigger until you've got these kind of kaiju-sized beasts running around. And what happened was a mass extinction level thing where 95% of the human population was wiped out. And 7 years after this kind of monster apocalypse, the survivors are starting to emerge. Most of them live underground in bunkers because the surface has been taken over by these creatures. We follow the story of a young guy called Joel who lives in one of the bunkers, played by Dylan O'Brien. Also in the film is Jessica Henwick, who you might know from the Iron Fist TV series, Michael Rooker, who's been in everything, most recently The Walking Dead, and of course Guardians of the Galaxy. Other actors include Dan Ewing, Ariana Greenblatt, who plays a very good character called Minnow, this very young girl, Ellen Holman, Tre Hale, and Amali Golden. So everybody that lives in the bunker with Joel is pretty tough. These are the hardcore survivors. These are the people that know how to fight the creatures. They go up to the surface for supply runs, and sometimes some of these beasts try and get into the bunkers and come through pipes and tunnels and so on, and these people have to go out on hunting parties. Joel never goes with them because he doesn't know how to fight, and through a series of flashbacks we find that he always freezes at the first sign of danger, and this is another reason why they all like him, they all think he's a nice guy, but nobody's paired off with him, whilst most of the people in the bunker have. And one of the reasons could be that he's a bit of a coward and he doesn't really have their actual respect. Despite the setup for this film, the way that I've described it, it's actually quite a light-hearted film that has a bit of heart. It's a real feel-good factor as well to the film because Joel has been communicating with his girlfriend, played by Jessica Henwick. Amy lives in another one of these bunkers. She's about 70 miles away, it turns out, and occasionally he's able to talk to her on the radio, but very rarely and only when the power's working and everything's going okay. And for all of these 7 years, Joel has been holding a candle for Amy. He still thinks of her as his sort of girlfriend, but he has no idea what has happened to her in those 7 years and how her life has turned out. He has changed absolutely within that period, but he doesn't seem to have become the toughened warrior like some of those around him who are real survivors. The prospect of being alone for the rest of his life is enough to force Joel to go up to the surface and attempt to make the journey to find Amy. Everybody thinks it's a fool's errand. He's going to go out there and die within 5 minutes. And he says, I don't care. He'd rather be with her and try and do something like that than just be on his own. Because it's not as if he can meet new people and everybody else is paired off and he feels very lonely. What follows for the majority of the film is Joel's travels across the country. Even though it's only about 70 miles, it's going to take him several days to get there. He meets people along the way, he fights lots of monsters. We realise how utterly inept and unprepared he was for this journey, but thanks to the goodwill of some people that he meets, he manages to not die within the first 5 minutes. There's also a dog that he meets called Boy, who proves to be a really interesting character, and Joel spends a lot of his time talking to the dog and having these one-sided conversations. And this is where the kind of heartwarming side of the film comes in, because despite the awful monsters and the danger that Joel finds himself in, running from one dangerous situation to another, the people that he meets on the surface are genuine. They find out what he's doing and why, and also think he's a little foolish, but they do their best to help him get along the way. There's no huge plot twists in this film. There's nothing really shocking and appalling, and it has quite a sweet tone to it. despite the kind of creatures that are quite disturbing and are willing to eat people. And we do see some people die in some fairly grisly ways, but it has this kind of comedic undertone and light touch, which means it never strays fully into really horrific territory. The CGI and special effects in this film are really good. I really thought it was impressive how they've recreated ordinary insects at a gigantic scale and turned them into terrifying monsters. That was done really, really well. All of the actors in the film are really, really good. The two leads, Dylan O'Brien and Jessica Henwick, give really convincing performances. I really bought into their relationship, the fact that they were sort of late teens probably before the disaster, and then they've been quite changed over the course of 7 years. He's still a bit naive and sweet and wants to believe that everything can go back to normal, whereas she has changed more dramatically, but he doesn't really know how much because they've been apart for 7 years and she's gone down a different path. I won't spoil it, it's just that it's not how he expected it and how he thought it was going to be, this fantastic romantic reunion. There are some clever touches in the film that they do with the monsters, some really nice little details if you pick them out, and the choice for monsters were quite cool at times. The comedy moments in there were good and made me laugh out loud, which was nice, and that helps lighten the tone for some of the darker moments. There are a couple of moments of wonder as well that make you kind of smile, so it is this heartwarming film at times. Despite the fact that Joel is a bit pathetic, you really feel for him and you want to see him do well and succeed on his quest. So overall, I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was quite sweet, it was entertaining, it had a light touch, there was some good comedy moments, all of the characters committed, the CGI was well done. So it was a good kind of, not family fun, but maybe a 15, I would say, or something like that. So for all of those reasons, I'm going to give Love and Monsters 3 out of 5 and say it's definitely worth your time. It's a nice Saturday evening film or something like that to put on one night. Have you seen Love and Monsters? If so, get in touch and let us know. What did you think of it? Did you agree with my assessment? You can contact us in all of the usual ways. We're on email, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. If you join the Facebook group, you can talk to us there about this film and all of the other films. We have new episodes coming out every week on YouTube, so don't forget to check them out. We also have our longer episodes where we discuss films at length. And on the YouTube channel, we also have some interviews, so look at those as well. If you like what we do and you want to support the channel, we're on Ko-fi, and we'll be back soon with another episode.